Hi guys, welcome back to yet another fun DIY video. Tomorrow I am leaving Los Angeles and heading back to Denmark to continue working on Athena. As if to prepare me for the wet, cold misery that awaits me in Denmark, the weather the last couple of days have been, well, not great. Of course it's not as cold as back in Denmark, but certainly the sky has the right color. I very much dread having to leave Ava, but I do find comfort in the fact that we will only be apart for 57 days, and I do have a lot of fun DIY stuff lined up to keep me distracted. Speaking of said DIY fun, there are a few things I've picked up here in the US that I'd like to show you. About a month ago, I discovered some rust on the exhaust elbow aboard Athena, and that rust of course turned out to be not just surface rust, but in fact the exhaust elbow was badly corroded and I needed a new one. And this is that. You might be wondering why I would bother lugging one of these things halfway around the world, because it is a somewhat heavy part. Well, the answer to that is quite simply cost. This is about half the price over here compared to the original Volvo part back in Denmark. Of course, this is not an original Volvo part, but to me, it looks like a pretty good quality spare part. But yeah, fingers crossed this thing will actually fit on the engine. The spiffy new exhaust elbow is all packaged up and ready for the trip back to Denmark. Moving on, I also picked up 3 rolls of bedded butyl tape. These are for Catamaran Guy in the marina, but you guys have seen me use this stuff plenty of times. It's awesome, and I will include a link to where I purchased this. The next item is actually not something I've purchased. This was a gift for us from Ava's brother-in-law. This is World Cruising Routes by Jimmy Cornell. From what I've read, this book is kind of like a cruising Bible, something that should be found aboard any cruising boat. I will include a link for this in the description. And that brings us to the last category of stuff I want to show you, and that is welding stuff. As I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, I'm about to learn how to weld so that I can build a new stainless steel tow rail for Athena. Just as with the exhaust elbow, the reason I picked up this welding stuff over here is cost. Now the gloves and the jacket, that's not that much cheaper over here, but the welding helmet here is about half the cost in the US compared to Denmark. I will very much be starting from scratch when it comes to welding. I've never touched a welder before, and this is only my second time ever touching a welding helmet. I pulled this thing out of its box when it showed up a few weeks ago just to check that everything was okay. This is a 3M Speed Glass helmet. Besides the gloves, the welding helmet, and the jacket, I also picked up a set of extra front lenses for the welding helmet because apparently those get dinged up a bit, so I've got those in case anything bad happens. And Ava and I also attempted to spiffy up my welding jacket a little bit. No doubt it'll be a long time before I can produce anything that even remotely qualifies as a pretty dang spiffy weld, but at least I have something to aspire to. My bags are all packed and I'm ready to head back to Denmark. And just like that, I am back here at Athena. If only air travel was that instantaneous in real life. I figured I would spare you guys the grueling 18-hour trip back to Denmark. As always, when coming back here after having spent time with Ava, I am very jet-lagged, I'm missing her something fierce, and also it's pretty dang cold here. And in fact, I've run into a little bit of a new issue because of the cold. When I got here, just about 15 minutes ago, I wanted to jump up into the boat and grab my tripod so I could start shooting video. But it seems the companionway hatch is frozen in place. It looks like it's just a little bit of water that's frozen here inside of the track. Now, fortunately, I remember that I forgot to lock the forward hatches. So I was still able to get into the boat and get to my tripod and some batteries. I wanted to come by today to just check out that everything is okay after having been away, and also to drop off the new stainless steel exhaust elbow. Everything down here looks exactly how I left it. Now there's one more reason I wanted to swing by Athena before heading up to the new official Sail Life workshop. While I was in LA, one of the other guys from the yard texted me to say that there was a mysterious green bag hanging from Athena's swim ladder. It seems someone dropped off a little gift, and I think I know what this is. Now there is a note included with this, but there is no name signed to it, so whoever dropped off this thing, thank you so much. In one of my previous videos, I complained about having to tape my vacuum to the dust shroud on my Makita grinder. So someone out there in interwebs land 3D printed out this awesome doohickey, which I suppose slides onto this, and then the vacuum attaches to this bit. It looks like the hole here is just a little bit too small. I can't quite get this thing onto the dust shroud, but I really like this idea. Thank you so much to whomever dropped this off. I wish you had signed your name on the note so that I could thank you. I've got my pockets stuffed with batteries. Now let's hit the road and check out the new workshop. The workshop is located only about 10 minutes from the yard, so that's very convenient. Ta-da! How freaking awesome is this ginormous place? As you can see, this space is still pretty empty. We don't have a lot of tools or other stuff in here yet. I'm gonna be sharing this space with Cement Boat Guy and Cement Boat Guy's brother-in-law. So it'll be 3 of us in here, but yeah, this should be plenty of space. Cement Boat Guy has already set up a little welding area over here, and that is where I'm going to be spending most of today. But let me just show you the rest of the workshop. We've got this giant open space here with plenty of headroom, and we've got 2 little office areas here. Both Cement Boat Guy and Cement Boat Guy's brother-in-law are going to be working from here, and who knows, maybe if I quit my day job, I could move my office up here. This is the bigger of the 2 office areas. As you can hear, it's pretty echoey in here. There are no lights as of yet, but all of that can be fixed. And then right out here is the bathroom. And also there is this area up here, which means I can move all of my stuff out of my storage unit, put it up here, and have way better access to it. So yeah, pretty excited about the workshop. I've decided to dedicate this weekend to getting started on learning how to weld. Now, welding seems like it's one of those skills you're not just going to pick up over a weekend, but I'm excited to see how far I can get this first weekend. When I moved aboard Obelix, I figured I wouldn't have to buy any more chairs anytime soon, but yeah, I guess that time is up. Okay, here we go. Putting together IKEA stuff. Jesus. While I was struggling to put together this demon from Sweden, Cement Boat Guy showed up, and Cement Boat Guy's real name is Martin. He's got that nickname because
of the cement boat.
Yes, they live aboard a ferro cement boat, which is a really cool project that I hope I can show you guys in the future.
Today we'll see if we can get Mads started in some TIG welding for his tow rail project. The reason why I prefer TIG is that it gives you by far the best result, and you have the possibility to go back and fix your weld if you make a small mistake. That's not possible if you're using a rod, not without using a grinder at least. This machine has 2 torches, a nice small one to use for stainless steel and a bigger one, water-cooled, that can be used for thicker materials in stainless, but also if you want to weld some aluminum. But for this, we'll take the small one. For detailed work or for welding in tiny spaces, I like this one very much because of the short length of the rod.
As I've mentioned, my primary reason for wanting to learn how to weld is so that I can build a new tow rail, and that this is kind of a demonstration of what that tow rail could look like. Imagine that this is the outside edge of the tow rail. Of course, this is not going to be that high. It's going to be significantly smaller. And then on top of this, there are going to be these little doodads here. On top of these little laser cut doohickeys, we're going to weld a rod. So this is going to be sort of the rough appearance of the tow rail. Martin just tagged these doohickeys in place because everything was a little bit too lively and kept falling down. But this is sort of the rough appearance of the tow rail. These might get moved a little bit closer to each other, a little bit further apart. But yeah, like I said, this is going to be the rough look I'm going for. Not only is making this tow rail going to be a great opportunity for me to learn how to weld, which is something I've always wanted to learn, it's also going to be both stronger and significantly cheaper compared to an extruded aluminum profile. Add to that the fact that I can design this to look basically however I want to. I think this is a project that's going to be well worth the time and also going to be a lot of fun. Having said that, there are still some things we haven't figured out. Amongst them, how to do this bended corner here, because we don't want to weld this on here. We'd much rather just bend that. But yeah, fingers crossed that all works out.
Let's go for the welding. And I think we'll take these nice pieces and put them aside for a while and find some scrap metal to start with.
For this first exercise, we're not using any filler rod.
The point of this exercise is to get a feeling of the welding pond and the distance between the wolfram rod and the pond. The distance is very important to get a nice narrow welding.
This was, I would say, fairly easy, and at least from what my knowledgeable teachers told me, this doesn't look horrible. So let's move on to the next exercise.
Now we're going to weld together these two pieces of metal. That's the type of welding that Mads is going to be using mostly for his tow rail project. For this we will use filler rod to get a nice round seam. A little more downwards, a bit more. Yeah.
Right before I turned the camera on, I made this weld here, which doesn't look super horrible, but then as soon as I turned the camera on, this is what happened. Well, let's try that again. I'm about an hour in and things are starting to look a lot better. Of course, the challenge here is going to be able to do that repeatedly, but yeah, that's what we've got practice for. Okay, that doesn't look as pretty as the one I did just before that, but it's because it's difficult to sit here and get the camera in here. It's all very cramped right now. But yeah, I would say I'm making pretty decent progress here. And for those playing along at home, both of these two pieces here are 2 millimeters thick, and this is set at 60 amps. Now, Martin dialed this in for me. I'm sure there's a lot of knowledge that goes into choosing the right amperage for whatever thickness you're working with, and then matching your speed to it so you don't get too much heat into the stainless. This being my first ever welding lesson, I've never had another welding teacher, so I don't have anything to compare to, but Cement Boat Guy strikes me as a pretty awesome teacher. Well, I want to get back to practicing. Having only welded for a few hours in my life, I'm certainly not an expert, so I can't really talk a lot about what's going on here. What I can tell you is that right now, welding feels kind of like trying to thread a needle while wearing a spacesuit. By that I mean TIG certainly seems to require a little bit of precision, and to me right now the torch feels kind of unwieldy. I'm wearing big gloves and a weird helmet. It's kind of difficult to get in there, but I'm hoping all of that will improve with some practice. What makes this so challenging is the fact that you want this little tip that's poking out here, the tungsten tip, to be really, really close to the surface of what you're trying to weld. Yet, you don't want that to touch the surface because that will contaminate the tungsten. And as you can see here, I've got a little bit of crud on there. It's barely noticeable, but there is a little bit of melted metal on there, and once that happens, there is only one thing to do. And that is to remove the tungsten and put a nice new pointy tip on here. Right now, the best tool we've got for sharpening tungsten here in the shop is this monstrosity. To be frank, this thing scares the living daylight out of me. When I use it, I am afraid that my clothing, or my arm for that matter, is going to get sucked into the machine. But let me show you. The reason this scares me is because when sanding the tungsten, at least from what I've seen online and from what my teacher has told me, you're supposed to sort of grind against the tungsten, meaning if this gets caught, then it's going to go into this, and well, if I don't let go, I'm going to go with it. Apparently there is a lot to sharpening tungsten. There are tons of videos on YouTube on that subject. Now because I'm new and because that thing scares me, I've decided to order a little tungsten sharpening doohickey just to make life a little bit safer and easier for me. That should show up within the next couple of weeks, so until then I'll just have to brave it with the scary doohickey and get in as much practice as I possibly can. Like I mentioned, I am pretty jet lagged and I don't really feel like I have a lot of energy for shooting video, so I'm going to cut this video a little bit short and just spend the rest of the day just practicing welding. But before I end this video, there are just a couple of things I'd like to mention. For one, this prototype of the tow rail here is just that. It's a prototype, and these thicknesses here is not the final thicknesses we're going to go with. This would be way, way, way too heavy. Having said that, if you guys have some ideas for how the tow rails should look, I would love to see them. So if you want to sketch something out on a piece of paper and throw a link in the description, that would be awesome. But yeah, I think this looks pretty freaking cool. Next weekend, I hope to be at the boat show in Düsseldorf. Now I say hope to because there's been a little bit of a planning snafu, and I'm now left without a dog sitter for my Icelandic sheepdog, Jökull. Now if that all works out, then I'll be at the boat show Saturday, and if I'm there, it'd be fun to have a little meetup. I don't know how many of you guys are going to be at that boat show on Saturday, but if you're interested in meeting up, be sure to keep an eye on the social or community tab here on the channel on YouTube or on Facebook. I'll post updates to the dog sitting situation there, and hopefully we can find a time to meet up. And that is basically going to be it for this video. Again, I'm sorry for cutting this video a little bit short. I have noticed whenever getting back from having spent time in LA, the first video is always kind of difficult. I don't know if it's because I'm jet lagged or missing Ava or what's going on, but that first video is always kind of hard to get through. But hopefully I should be all back to normal within a few days. So I will see you guys next weekend. See you!